Mohammad and Coach David here.
What's going on, guys? So, Coach, you got questions for me this time, right?
The public or jiu-jitsu community has questions for you. Yes, we do.
Burning questions. Let's hear them.
Yeah, so your questions are reaching across the United States, I would say.
It's a worldwide. Question.
So, appreciate the time coming in, Coach David.
Sure, of course.
Looks like we're reaching a lot of people in the jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah, a lot. I would say, we've had a surprising amount of people come in and be like, yeah, I was listening to your podcast and I thought this, or I had these questions, and I guess there's, they like it. I mean, they dig it. You can talk shop with people that are, in the trenches, so to speak. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you know what? That was our goal, is to try to communicate and answer some of the questions, concerns, and even educate people on what this world of jiu-jitsu is about, and
right.
Whether they could be potential customers or not. It's great to be able to educate people and help them see what life is like for people who are training.
Sure.
So one of the questions we had was somebody said they've heard you say that jiu-jitsu makes your students better employees. And so they wanted you to elaborate on that. What did you mean by that? And how does jiu-jitsu make a better employee? Because that's very attractive to an employer.
With that, jiu-jitsu makes, I think what makes the jiu-jitsu community, every school, so tight-knit, at its core, is kind of the team building aspect behind it. And I've had I haven't worked at a limitless amount of companies, but I have had some experience with that, and I see everyone's been at a job where it's just a bunch of backbiting and the culture sucks and no one wants to work there, and they're, one person, it's just the people don't get along and they don't want to, nothing can get done because there's so many interpersonal relations, and that could go back to something that has to do with, you're going to hear me talk a lot about mutual respect. The mutual respect that's extended, if you train jiu-jitsu, you have respect for everybody, and that's I've even heard that companies like Quicken or Google started incorporating jiu-jitsu into their system or their program for the team building that it promotes. And so it's the head salesman of, the big macho guy of 200 pounds is, it says something when the 130-pound IT guy, chokes him out on the mat. So it's that kind of builds up, it levels it changes things in the work field. So now if we've only got one student here doing jiu-jitsu and he goes back to his workplace and no one else does it, he's at least gonna, he's going to realize the importance of that team building. He's going to strive to work for that more. And at the very least, he's going to he's definitely going to handle the stress better. The stress level that they'll be able to handle at work. I mean, I don't get super stressed at work when work gets piled on, because it's nothing compared to a human trying to choke you out. And I've said that so many times. To a tournament level stress, or even just a tough match, the stress of paperwork on my desk is not the same. So,
and I think that's what maybe some of these employers were alluding to, is okay, yeah, jiu-jitsu is going to make you a better employee, and you're going to be more valuable to a company. But how? How are you going to take those skills and come to my company or work for me? Mm-hmm. And what how is your productivity, and what specific areas is it going to help? And I think managing extra work has been or multitasking, or really being able to deal with lots of people or lots of different things happening to you at one time is something.
Yeah. I would say where you could see, it's like trying to change the entire recipe by changing one ingredient.
Yeah.
Like if you'll change, it'll taste a little different,
Right.
but it won't be a whole completely new dish.
Right.
If someone like, let's say there was a business owner listening to this, and they're like, "Oh, I want to change." You need to get every single person. Like if every person on the payroll started doing jiu-jitsu, like if you just had like brought in whoever. I mean, could be us, could be a local, if you're out of state, a local instructor to teach your corporation.
Yeah.
And they're all doing jiu-jitsu now. I bet it would take within a month you would notice a difference for sure, like undoubtedly, because for the reasons I just stated. So if they're all doing jiu-jitsu versus just one of your team, you might notice it.
So how would you on the flip side, how would you communicate answering that same question to people who are like, maybe they're stuck at their job, or they don't feel like they're advancing as much as they should, or they're not being recognized? What if you're answering the same question, but you're talking to maybe people who want to move up?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to jump ship and move to a completely different industry. So how would this help them be more attractive to either employers, or how would it help them move up in the corporate ladder, or a small company, whatever it may be?
Short answer is boldness / confidence, and the reality of it. If jiu-jitsu does nothing else, but like it forces you to audit. Like, you walk in here, do I actually know how to fight, how to grapple? You have to be honest with yourself. After your first match, you realize no. So now let's say you want to be making more money, you want to go up that corporate ladder. Am I worth it? You'll be able to honestly evaluate that, like objectively. Like, because jiu-jitsu promotes humility, you're not going to think you're the cat's meow if you're not. And then the boldness to go to that boss or your manager and be like, look, here's what I've done. Whatever. I mean, it could be a mom and pop shop. It could be a large corporate, Fortune 500 corporation. Here's what I've done. Here's the value I've added. Here's what I believe I'm worth. And, here's what I'm proposing. And I know that's pretty standard place in a lot of corporations, but some people get freaked out about that. Or they may get a promotion, but they may shortchange themselves,
Is that something that somebody could expect after a first class? Like, I take
confidence?
Yeah, like, can I take a class and then, get a 10 or 20% jump in my pay?
No, boy, wouldn't that be a statistic? Guys, take our first class, get a 10% raise. Yeah, that would pay for. Boy, I wish. No,
bosses would have a shutdown.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah. No, I mean, no. I don't know. I don't know if I could put a time frame to it. I don't know that anyone could, because it's just now you're dealing with human character and development. But overall, you take someone who has never done jiu-jitsu, and then you take them throughout periodics of, white belt, blue belt, purple belt, so on. They're definitely going to have defining characteristics that were molded by the art of jiu-jitsu. That's a good question, though.
Yeah. Okay. So I have another question, Coach.
Yep.
So we get told, we've seen this in a lot of the calls that we're getting for our local gym anyway, is that a lot of people want to join, but they have injuries that's keeping them from doing jiu-jitsu or starting a physical fitness or some type of physical activity. How does our program work around people with injuries? So you can explain how our program works around people with injuries, and maybe some advice to some people out there on how to approach a exercise program, martial arts program, if you have some injuries or physical restrictions or limitations.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the severity of the injury for sure. But I mean, I just think of a lot of those YouTube videos out there with, like, I think was it paraplegic. The kid, they helped carry the kid onto the mat because his legs weren't working or something.
Yeah.
There's actually a guy on YouTube. He does jits, and he's in a wheelchair. Like, and so, like, he does, like, same deal. He just, like, does darts and stuff with his hand. But it depends on the injury. And we would, one thing we really focus on here, you've got injuries, I've got injuries. We have to work around them. And it goes back to, I think, a few podcasts ago we talked about that gas pedal. Not only for your cardio and just feeling sore, but it's also like, look, you're going to come into a class. We're going to do a warm-up. It's going to be just like that. It's going to be a low-impact warm-up. It's going to get you familiar with those body movements. And then we're going to show technique, also low impact. And then we might, lightly drill it a little bit.
What does drilling mean?
So drilling is, there's a few stages of, there's a technique on a non-resisting opponent, like you're essentially a dummy. Your partner's being a dummy, no resistance at all. And drilling is he's like 10, 15% resistance just to kind of, again, help with the movement around it. So it's not a live match, it's not live sparring, but it's just drilling, to generate that muscle memory and that trigger. And then, we have an intentional break, like stop time. Like that's the whole first part of our class. And then we go into competition training and live training. And I think when people ask us, like, they're like, hey, I want to do it, but I'm injured, I think their brain's automatically going towards the live training. That's just what they view as jiu-jitsu. It's a very, they're thinking of like what they see in the UFC or like a really intense wrestling match.
So, like, just going back into our previous question, it sounds like that first part of your program that you teach here and you're running is for absolutely anybody. When I and you correct our listeners if you're wrong. When I hear 10 to 15%, at that number, couldn't literally anybody, 70, 80-year-old man?
Definitely. I mean, for sure. I mean, Helios Gracie did it, I want to say into his 90s. Like, so it's if you can, and here's another thing. You're using actually some movements, it might hurt more for you to just stand than when you get on the ground. Now a lot of that gravity is not on your knees. So if you got bad knees and you've got a 200-pound body weight directly on that knee, that goes away when you go on your back.
Actually, I've never thought of it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like, so gravity's working against that. So
yeah,
it depending on the injury, but we're very sensitive around working around those. We're obviously, our culture's huge on train another day. Yeah. There's no point in retiring at 30, after your second. I always think of that story you told me, a guy who came in the first week and tore his ACL and hasn't been back since at that other school he visited.
So are there any specific injuries that you've seen people come in with that maybe give one example of somebody who could have been classified as like out of commission, like you should definitely not do something like this? Can you give an example of somebody who has came in with one of these injuries, so for our viewers that are listening, or maybe
they, as far as like out of commission, like the doctor told them not to do anything physical and they defied all that. No, I mean, I can't think of one. You might be able to.
What's real common is backs.
I was just about to say a lot of backs or like hips, or because there's there's a big wrestling culture downriver, so you get a lot of old wrestlers or hockey, a lot of hockey, the old hockey players, and they're like, you can tell they look back on their hockey days I
feel like half of our members do, what are they called, the drop-in league or the beer league?
There is a lot of hockey's, so they come in with things like that, and it's just workarounds. It's like they got bad knees or bad hip, and it's like, their back is the most recent one that sticks out to me would be their back, and again, it goes back to that posture, that gravity. Like your skeleton is supporting your body weight, right? So. Right. So just the very nature of it, if that's not, I mean, think of the way those discs are. It's like building blocks on top of each other, and with that weight vertically, it's a lot. If it's not aligned, it's going to be more issues. Versus if you're laying down, you can move a little better. That's why some people like you get in the water a little bit, like it relieves my back because gravity's not pushing on it. So, but that's I've never had someone come in with injuries and say, hey, this was just too intense. I thought it would work out. I wish it had, but it didn't. We work around it really well. And if, they're really, it's by far the alternative to just a rehab center where they're on the elliptical, with the nurse assistant or whatever, and they've got CNN on in the corner. It's definitely a better environment for their rehab too, for sure. So.
Right. Awesome. Coach David, thanks for sharing all the knowledge, and I'm sure you answered a lot of the questions that came through that we didn't get to, but there's some good information, and I hope that we can have you back again next week.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah, well, you guys take care. If you are, obviously, if you are looking to get into jiu-jitsu, we are right here in Southgate next to Planet Fitness. Check us out. We also have our website up and running, metrojj.com. And give us a call, 734-225-6230. If you've got injuries or anything that you need to work around or anything holding you back, we have qualified instructors and hands-on staff that can help you out about that. So talk to you guys soon. Take care. We hope you have enjoyed this podcast. As always, if you have any questions or anything you want to hear on our podcast, you can send those to metrobjj@gmail.com. Or perhaps you want to start your jiu-jitsu journey today and come check out our gym. We're located at 13555 Eureka Rd, Southgate, Michigan. And we're right next to Planet Fitness. Come on in. Our friendly staff will be happy to answer any of your questions and meet your goals. Talk to you soon.